And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my wonderful co-host, John Horton. Definitely check out our Twitter or X at BlueBuzz26. Let's get right into it today, ladies and gentlemen. Got my wonderful co-host is back, feeling 100% here. Missed him last week. It was definitely a little different doing one without him. I hope you guys didn't mind me blabbering here for 20, 25 minutes or so. But nonetheless, got the guy back here for a good one here today. A lot of stuff to cover. Before we get into, some of this, a little bit of the beginning of the offseason here, already some kind of craziness going on in the organization. How are you doing today?
I am doing pretty good, thank you. Happy to be back. Apologies again. I had some work stuff last week that pulled me away unexpectedly at the time. I'm feeling it sucks to say, it sucks that Ranger hockey is over, but thank God at the same time because this was bad. The players quit,
Yeah.
the coaches quit, the organization fell apart. Like I was saying, once it was clear that the Rangers weren't going to make the playoffs, it was clear everybody was just waiting for this season to get over with. At least Sam Rosen had a good send off.
Yeah.
That was a good game. They won 4-0 for 40 years. They finally decided to play hockey on the last game of the season when it didn't matter. But at least for Sam Rosen, they did that. A lot to get into. Quick
Yes,
bullet
sir.
points. Chris Drury and his Peter Laviolette and his assistant coach were fired. Chris Drury was extended. I have some thoughts on the timing of the extension. I haven't looked into if he needed an extension. Maybe that's part of why, but I also think it's a little bit of a statement from Jim Dolan, and we'll get into that too. But yeah, to start off, Peter Laviolette was here for 2 years. First year, of course, was amazing. Made it to the president's cup. I'm thinking like soccer. They won the President's Trophy, made it to the Eastern Conference Final, lost to the Panthers, of course. Very sad times. And this was a year of great expectation, a year to look forward, a year of a window that was slightly closing and some drama with some players. And then it completely exploded into a million pieces. And now we are here with an offseason of questions upon questions in terms of not only coaching, but also leadership. I got some pretty passionate thoughts on some of the exit interviews, which we'll get into at the end. But I guess overall,
Absolutely.
I will say I agree with the firing, and I want to see what you think. Do you agree with this firing? Do you think it should have been handled differently, or what do you, how do you feel?
So first, just to get this out there, because again, like you had mentioned, we're all very happy this season is over. Something that really kind of really like hit me in terms of like, wow, that this really like put in perspective how bad this year was. I was listening to, I think it's called Up in the Blue Seats. It's a great podcast if you haven't heard of it. I recently discovered it. It's Molly Walker, who's a beat writer for the covers the Rangers. Brian Boyle, who is incredible as a first year analyst or second year analyst here. He's only been doing it for a couple years, but I love when he's in the booth and the ice with MSG. I mean, he does some really good stuff. And then of course Larry Brooks, who has probably the most controversial takes of the three, but he said something that really hit home for me. And he's been, keep in mind here, he's been covering the team for, I think it's like something like 30 years. He said this was like his least enjoyable season watching the Rangers ever. Now, obviously, this wasn't going to be one of the more enjoyable ones, but he did cover this team in the late 90s and early 2000s when it was basically just they were just throwing money at veteran players, not really doing much, not a lot of, I think there was like 7 or 8 years here they didn't make the playoffs there. So he's covered this team through some pretty crappy years, and still he said this was the least enjoyable year to watch just in terms of entertainment value. Obviously, this is at the end of the day an entertainment business, and very few things about this year were entertaining for many Rangers fans and people just trying to watch hockey in general. I do think that the firing of Laviolette. I go back and forth on this one. I understand it. I get it. I think that it was necessary for a kind of culture change here, but it just kind of, again, and we'll get into it, it speaks to just how soft some of these guys in the locker room are and just how like little they're able to kind of pick themselves up and fight through adversity. I mean, you go back to Gerard Gallant, this is literally Gallant 2.0. We bring in this well-established veteran head coach, good winning percentage, won in the past, knows what he's doing. Not known for his development of youth, but again, can work with the veteran players, a loyal guy. He's not going to say things that are going to, hurt his players when he's doing media interviews and stuff like that, right? But this is literally the same thing that happened with Gallant. With him, the first year we made the conference finals. Second year, we had an embarrassing out in the first round. He's gone. Look at what happened with Laviolette. First year, President's Trophy, conference finals. Second year, missed the playoffs. He's out. Now, when you're on your fourth head coach in, I believe it's 5 or 6
Six.
years since
Six.
Quinn,
Yep.
um, it's nuts. It speaks to the players again, and we'll get into more of that, and just like kind of how they approach the season, and how terrible they are at fighting through adversity and all those things. Considering all those things, yes, I think Laviolette needed to go. I think it was the right decision, but I wish that we could give these guys a little bit more of a chance to coach the team, and put their system in play here, and have a consistent run with the team. Again, it points to some of these players and their deficiencies in the locker room, but yeah, and I do have to agree. Phil Housley, the assistant defensive coach, was kicked out as well. I mean, you look at our defense this year; it was just atrocious, just
It was
terrible. The
not. It
system we
was
had in
not
place.
defense.
It
It
was
was
not
something
defense. I
else.
mean, if you look at like the categories that we led the league in, you don't want to lead the category in, opportunities given up in the slot, east-west passes, rush offense, 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s, things like that. Like, you don't want to be leading the league in those categories, and we're right up there leading the league in those, some of the worst categories there imaginable. So yeah, the right move. I think we need a culture shift in here, which I guess we'll kind of segue here into some of the possible replacements. I'm curious what you think about some of these guys. I'll give my thoughts real quick here. Some of the bigger names out there, there are some of your like veteran contingents, like the Rick Tocchet, Joel Quinonville, John Tortorella names that are floating around.
Mhm.
I'll say Joel
No Joe
Quinonville.
Quinville.
I don't
No.
want him near this
No.
organization with a 50-foot pole. Rick
No.
Tocchet either. I do not want him anywhere near this organization. He's one of those guys where the players are not going to respond to him. This is core soft. These guys are weak. They could barely handle Drury putting up a for sale sign. I don't think they're going to handle 5 words out of Rick Tocchet's mouth. So I don't want him anywhere near this organization. The only one of those veteran guys I would love is Mike Sullivan, but I don't see the Penguins really dishing him. I don't understand why. I mean, unless his course is kind of run there and they're looking for some organizational change as well, I will say that if we're able to get Mike Sullivan, jump on him. He's one of the best coaches in recent years. I mean, he's been an incredible coach here for years and years and years, multiple Stanley Cups. But then you look at some of these younger names, Jay Woodcroft, who was with the Oilers for a little bit, Jay Leach, who's an assistant with the Bruins, who looks like he's got a promising future in front of him. David Carl is another interesting name floating out there. Led University of Denver to a national championship. He also coached some of our prospects here, like Gabe, in the USA development, national development team. I like him as a possible young guy to kind of be somebody who can be here for years and years and years. But the question of can you go from coaching the NCAA to the NHL is always a little bit of a nerve-wracking question there. Didn't really work out with us with David Quinn, so I don't know if I'm overly bullish on that one. And then you get into our assistants here who are staying with us, Dan Muse and Michael Pekka. The two of them, I do think that Mike Pekka has the best chance here to get the job. And I would be really happy. That's honestly, if we're not able to get Mike Sullivan, my pick is Michael Pekka. You just look at the work that he's done with this team, the improvement in the faceoffs, the improvement on some of our other aspects of our play here in terms of like our penalty kill, like the areas on the ice that he was involved in, our players showed significant improvement. And the players really respond to him. He's a younger guy. He played. He knows the game. Obviously, what he has to say is resonating with these players. They're responding to him and changing what they're doing. So if we are looking to bring in a younger guy and change the culture and kind of have somebody who can be here for years and years and years and establish himself, I would really hope that they give Mike Beck that opportunity. With all that being said, I'm curious where your head's at and what kind of names you're interested in here.
Yeah, so I'll definitely defer to you more on the coaching side because I haven't deep dived it as much as I should have, just because I'm so dejected from a lot of it. But
I know,
right
and
off
there's
the
so many
bat,
names floating out there right now too
oh
that
yeah,
it's
there could be
people are
some.
literally just throwing spam at a wall and hoping it sticks here. Like,
Yeah, I will say I do like your point about some of the younger guys and Michael Pekka within the group. I know that Michael Pekka and was it Dan Muse? Is that the other
yeah,
one? They have the opportunity to interview for the head coach position, and then whoever the new head coach is, they have to re-interview for their current job, of course.
yeah,
Um, and I like some of the other younger, choices. Mike Sullivan, just probably not going to happen. That would be
yeah,
probably incredible, yeah. But I agree. I don't want some old guard. I don't want some John Tortorella. Don't want Joe Quinville. For anyone who
yeah.
doesn't know, look up the
All the Blackhawks scandal
Blackhawks,
stuff. Yeah,
scandals. I won't get into that, but it's bad. And there's a reason he hasn't been allowed to coach in the NHL for so long, and why only now he's being allowed back in for some reason. He shouldn't be allowed at all, but whatever. Um, that's the NHL for you. But yeah, like in the breakout interviews, which we'll get into, Adam Fox, I mean, he even alluded to, he's like, I don't understand it. Like, we have a new coach, and then we're good one year, and the next year we're not,
mm-hmm.
and he's not someone to blame for a lot of this. I mean, he's Adam Fox. sometimes leadership wise, I think he can be a little on the down, but he's one of the younger guys. He's kind of not young anymore, but in terms of the leadership in the locker room, he's younger. But yeah, we need to get a coach who I think can establish a culture and try and find a way to get around these players quitting. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, you saw Peter
Mhm.
Laviolette like near the end of the season. Reporters pointed out like he was barely talking to the team on the bench. He wasn't
Mhm.
really talking to them after interviews. The practices were very lackluster from what we could tell, and just not really hard hitting, or there wasn't a lot of consequence for playing poorly. But the young players they had their consequences, and that was the other thing that I think really attributed to his firing was, and the media always stirs this, and it's New York, but we had
Yeah.
like 6 to 8 players speak out on playing time, being
Mhm.
scratched. And look, every hockey player in the NHL is there for a reason. They're incredible players. I'm not trying to say this to be, mean or like point out certain things, but it is kind of the fact. A lot of those players that spoke out were not stars, right? They weren't
Mhm.
really incredibly great players. They were like fourth line players, they were positional players. And every player on a roster is important, to their own degree. But, it wasn't like Adam Fox was getting scratched and this and
Yeah.
that. Like Mika should have been scratched more and he should have been penalized.
Well, yeah,
Chris
but that's
Kreider
the
we'll
thing
get
because
into.
Kreids and some of the veteran guys like Lavi, for as loyal as he is, he was loyal to a fault, and that's an
To
issue
a
we've
fault,
had with
yes.
coaches here previously,
Oh, it's
where
bad.
and I think they pick up on how fragile these veteran guys are because
Yeah.
really wonder if you scratch Kreids a few games, if you scratch Mika a few games, if you throw Foxy out of there for a game or so, you do things like that. Then they're probably in the back of their mind, they're worrying like, how are they going to respond? So it's probably part of why we're not seeing, our coaches here historically be doing those things. But then it's a problem because when's the last time that we've actually developed any homegrown talent here?
Too
That's
long.
that's that's
We're
the
so
issue.
we're so excited to have Gabe Pro help us push for the playoffs. He has 4
Yeah, let's
games,
scratch. Yeah, let's play
and
him
then
for
we'll
3 games.
scratch
Scratch
you
him
the other
for 2. Play him
4.
for 2. I mean, it's
I mean,
just a
what
joke.
the hell? He produced nothing offensively, and I feel bad. Like, burnt a year. Now he's going back to his college campus to finish his year. Like, that was pointless. It was a complete waste of time
Well, I mean,
to
I
do
think he
that.
did. He got the experience, which is nice. Like he did say that he really appreciated the experience because now going into training camp, once he's done with the rest of his college classes here, he has a little bit more of an idea of what to expect. I think the expectation is he's going to play right at the beginning of the year next year. I mean, obviously, if you're bringing him in the end of the year here to see what he's got, I think the idea is give him a whole summer to train, bring him in the beginning of next year, and see what he has. Um, but I mean, obviously, we'll see what that looks like and what coach is going to be here, what kind of minutes he's getting, all those kind of things is still up in the air here. But yeah, I just this whole coaching thing is shot. And I think before we keep on rolling a little further, I will just get our spot in here from DraftKings real quick. So I know we have the NBA. The highlight is on the NBA playoffs here, as it was last week. I know you guys are well aware if you've been listening here with us. My Celtics are looking pretty good again. I'm not gonna shameless plug. I love the C's here, but nonetheless, the NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, like I was just talking about. It is time for all of the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. I hope you're looking forward to it too. And if you want to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. They're going to drop 30, they're going to drop 40, 5 threes, 6 threes, whatever it might be. And here's something special for you. New customers to DraftKings can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. Again, use code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Yeah, man, the basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs. This is a really good time of year for sports. Unfortunately, not such a great time of year for us. I think I'll segue us here into the Drury extension we had talked about a little bit. Obviously, covered some of the Laviolette stuff. I mean, we have all the offseason here. We will be talking potential replacements, obviously, any news we get on interviews, things like that. But like you had said, the Drury extension, weird time. I do have to agree with that. I don't think he needed an extension as far as I'm aware. I mean, I could be wrong, But I just find it weird that right after this really terrible year, right after we fire Laviolette, right after there's this whole kind of storm of questions and just crap floating around this organization, that's when they decide to extend him. It just sends a weird message.
It
Curious
does.
what you think about that as
Uh,
well.
Here's what I think the message is. So when Drury was interviewed at the end of the season, he said he's like, I put a lot of blame on myself. We're gonna look at every nook and cranny. We're gonna look at every part of this. We're
Mm,
gonna figure out the problem. And a lot of players highlighted, including Mika, um, like communication issues between the front office and the players and this and that,
mm,
expectations, all this stuff. And you know, I think in Jim Dolan, the devil himself, said he wanted to be more involved with the with the player breakup days and what's going on. And I think, I'm sure they've had internal conversations, as I joked before we started recording, and I'm sure other people have heard. He referred to James Dolan as Mr. D, so they're best friends, and his job was secured before. Hearing that is crazy.
yeah.
So you're not calling James Dolan Mr. D if you know you're not set for the next couple of years at least. Um, I think it's important too to point out, even with this extension, he can still be fired at any time. But I think, um, in my opinion, it's more important to keep the GM role stable more so than the coaching in the NHL. I know it's tough. I know kind of usually it's a pair,
Hmm.
but I think the message that Jim wanted to send was, and which we'll get into, is Chris Drury is here to stay.
Yep.
He's handling this organization. If you don't like that, then we will trade you. That's what I think the message is. I think Jim is saying, all right, I hear the players don't like the communication in the front office. Well, guess what? Here's my communication. Chris Drury's staying. I
Mm,
believe in him. I trust him. In his letter, he wrote that Chris Drury, the 12th president and GM of Rangers hockey, has the best record of any GM over 4 years for the Rangers. Kind of a weird stat, but whatever. He put it out there.
mm,
And, that's his stance. So I think the reason that it came out the time it did was he wants to send a message to the players on the roster. Like, if you don't like this,
mm,
you don't want to play here, leave. And part of the problem too, which we'll get into the breakout, like I'm pretty out on Mika as a player overall and his shitty attitude. Um, I understand from a human side, it sucks. Your coworker, your friend just got blasted off somewhere else. You're still getting your paycheck. You're still
mhm.
expected to produce as a player, right? If my coworker at my job got fired, I'd be upset, but I'm not going to go to my manager and say, I can't do my work this week because I'm sad that you
Yeah.
fired my coworker. So I think I can blame Chris Drury for how he handled the moves in the timely fashion that he did was incorrect this year.
Mm,
But as much as I hate to say it, but like, I can't blame him for the outcome because any GM would probably try and do the same thing. And they wouldn't, like, they'd obviously expect, like, oh, they might be a little upset, but they wouldn't expect them to completely give up on the season and just lose 20 games in a row, stop playing
yeah.
hockey, stop listening to your coach. You have Mika coming into the locker room breakup day and saying, like, oh, this was one of the hardest seasons for me mentally, the lack of communication, like my own play. Grow up. Grow up. He is part of the problem with this quote unquote leadership in this locker room is, I think, and you heard Zach Jones talking about, I'm not a 32-year-old that's just collecting a paycheck. I think he just like oozes this give up mentality. And when you're a
Mhm.
young guy coming into this locker room, like, wow, I'm in New York City. I'm in one of the original 6 franchises. I'm on an NHL team. This is so awesome. And you see the veterans with their heads hung low. They don't give a shit. They don't know how to play like they used to. How does
Mm,
that make you feel, right? Like if you walked into your job and they're like, "Oh, learn from these guys," and then you're like, "I don't know how to do that." Yeah, I don't know. Just do this. Maybe this. You're gonna
yeah.
be like, Okay, well, what am I doing?" And then everybody hates the manager. Okay, well, I guess I hate the manager now too. But Mika's here to stay. His contract's there for a reason. He's
Yep.
not moving. He says he wants to be here. Fine, but it's very clear now. And I don't know if I said in this recording too, but like I unfollowed Mika Zibanejad on Instagram this morning after like going through. I was like, screw this guy. He sucks as a leadership. He's a good hockey player. He's on the decline with his age and his time played, whatever. But I
Mhm.
can't stand his attitude. And that's the part I think Jim Dolan agrees to. I think he's like, look, you were doing your job as a GM. You had players making a ton of money, Goodrow and Trouba, and statistically playing some of the worst hockey in their career. You
Mhm.
wanted to give this team the best chance they could. You moved them, their whole contract, both of them,
Yeah.
which is insane. and then you tried to plug holes, but you couldn't because all these players that were paying millions of dollars to hung their head and said, I'm not going to play hockey anymore. So I think that's my thought. That's what I think Jim Dolan feels. Again, he is the spawn of Satan, so it's kind of hard to really know what he's thinking. But that's my opinion, my long-winded approach to why I think the message came out when it did.
Mhm.
And I'll finish this off by saying I'm 50-50 on Drury. I was more 80-20. I think the extension's fine, but this offseason in particular, he needs to work his ass off. He needs to figure
Yeah.
something out. He needs to, make sure the right coaches are in place, the right players are added in free agency with this extra cap space. And
Mhm.
he needs to make sure Lafreniere does not go to the fucking beach, and he trains in the off season and he earns his contract. For the love of God,
The
the
laugh.
laziest athlete. He is such a lazy athlete. I can't stand it. I don't want to see a
Oh
first
man.
overall pick that got a 7-year contract with 40 points a season. I don't want to see that. I want to see your potential. Stop going to the beach and getting tans on All-Star break. Fucking get to the rink and practice. So that is my overall take on that.
No, I have to say it's a very interesting take. I didn't really consider that. I kind of like where you're coming from, and I understand the approach there because, well, I don't know that Dolan was that involved in the timing of the decision. I do certainly think there's something to be said there in, when they had put the extension out there, right? Like obviously he didn't need to do it this second, but yeah, interesting take there. And I do have to kind of agree with you on some of like the 50-50 with the Drury stuff. I really question some of the asset management because we're sending picks for some of these bottom six guys and bottom four defenders, and then they're not getting the playing time. Like looking at Carson Soucy, give up a third round pick for him, he was absolutely terrible. Meanwhile, Dahan played 4 games, was actually pretty good, and then gets scratched for the rest of the year. And then PR basically tries to silence him, and then he looks like a butthole when he starts talking about this organization. When in reality, I think it's a dysfunction, and obviously we're not going to see it anymore because Lavi's out of here. But I also think it was a dysfunction in the organization, not only the communication between the front office and the players, but the front office and the coaches. Because Drury should be saying to Lav, "Hey, I want to bring in this guy, that guy. What do you think? Are you going to play him? Are they going to get the minutes? All these things. Otherwise, why even bother? Why did we go out there? And not only did we get Vakanainen back from Truba, so we have him kind of there in the D corp. We have Zach Jones as a guy who's sitting behind. We have Matthew Robertson, another young guy who can give the opportunity. But no, let's go out there and get Susie and Dahan because we're going to play them, veteran guys. They're going to anchor our D, right? Well, that was a whole lot of fucking doo-doo because Dahan again played 3 or 4 games and then gets scratched the rest of the year. And Susie looked like he was out to lunch. He was terrible. So what's the point? That's where it's like, that's poor asset management. I blame Dre for that. But I also think that the whole kind of disorganization in this organization this year contributed to that as well. I really would imagine that some of those things should be figured out moving forward here, especially if we get a new coach in here. I would just hope that the communication between Drury and the coaching staff is a little more solid and they can be kind of in line with the decisions we're making here. I don't think that the players need to be involved in those decisions either, quite frankly. I think that Mika's comments about, the lack of communication from management and things like that, like you said, grow up, and nut up here, play some hockey. I mean, you don't get paid to be in the front office helping them make those decisions. You get paid to play hockey. Look at the best players in this league. Do you think they're complaining to the front office about, oh, you brought this guy in, oh, you traded that guy, oh, you brought this in? No, that is some baseball prima donna stuff. That's some football wide receiver prima donna stuff. That doesn't belong in the NHL. That is not NHL mentality. That is not hockey guy mentality. That is not rough and tumble physical play mentality. That is crying in the corner because you're an all-star wide receiver who didn't get the ball thrown to you last game mentality. That is some mentality we do not need on this team. We don't need that kind of attitude. And I like that point you made about how it permeates throughout the locker room and it affects some of the younger guys. Obviously, Mika's, like you said, he's here to stay. So we'll get into some of that in the offseason here. Just where the other moves need to be made, the pieces we need to bring in to kind of shore up this roster. But yeah, I don't think it was all Drury's fault. I have to agree with you. I think the players, kind of a lot of the guys in this locker room showed their character, but in the way that they responded to some of the decisions that were made. But I also just think that the general disorganization in this locker room and in this organization contributed to a lot of what ended up happening and ultimately what led to, our downfall as an organization this year, which I guess I'll use as a segue into some of the exit interviews,
Mhm.
which were interesting to say the least. I did appreciate that we saw guys like Keandre Miller and Lafreniere owning up to their poor play. A lot of guys are making comments about just the lack of consistency this year. And so I do appreciate some of these guys taking ownership, but it really highlighted how, sorry, I got a little fly on me, really highlighted how much Jacob Trouba impacted this team.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we had all lobbied, oh, get him out of here, get him out of here, get him out of here. But look at how much worse our defense was without him. And look at how much the mood in the locker room changed when he wasn't
Hmm.
here. And so
Hmm.
there's something to be said about the human aspect of hockey here. I think we're getting wrapped up in some of the business stuff. You know, it is a business. You got to get out there and perform. But I do understand to a degree, you know, when your captain is traded in the middle of the year in a time in which we're losing games left and right, it's hard to bounce back from that. I understand that. At the end of the day, I still don't like our approach to trying to, you know, rebound from that. I think a lot of the guys just kind of hung their head and just packed it in and said, "Oh well, you know, let's just skate, let's just get through it and figure it out next year, or whatever."
Hmm.
And I obviously don't love that approach, but not only did it highlight how much Trouba meant to this organization, but it also just highlighted some of the even more kind of put a highlight on the dysfunction, not only again between the guys in the locker room, management, the coaches. I mean, throughout. So yeah, you know, with Laviolette now being out of here, Drury got, you know, is cemented as the guy at the helm. I think that it's going to be a really important offseason to see not only what kind of coaching decisions are made, what players are we bringing into this locker room, and what players are we getting rid of. We
Yep.
really need to kind of shore up this locker room, and obviously with this offseason, we'll get into a lot of that stuff. But what do you think of some of the exit interview stuff? I mean, I know obviously I could kind of highlight all the points there, but you know,
Yeah.
did you appreciate some of the comments, or you know,
I,
where are you at?
I I did appreciate some of them, and I think to your point too, like, you know, it goes back on Drury. You moved Trouba because he was making too much money. He was playing bad hockey. You moved Ryan
Mhm.
Lindgren because he was going to make too much money and was getting injured
Mhm.
every other game. So, you know, this offseason, who are the two defensemen that you're going to bring in to fix that, right? Because like the plugs that we put in besides Will Borgen have just been like temporary
Yeah.
plugs. Like those guys are all going to walk in free agency, hopefully, because some of
Well,
them are
or
horrible.
do we give Matthew Robertson an opportunity, or do we finally give Zach Jones an
Right.
opportunity? I mean,
Or
that's
Zach
something that I
Jones.
wouldn't mind either.
I wouldn't mind that either. You know, it's just crazy with Zach Jones. Like he's just not well respected by this organization. And then during the trade deadline, I was reading that like I think his agent was like tried to find someone that would trade
Mhm.
for him, and just nobody was
Well, we
interested
killed
in him.
any and all of his trade value, and it's a
Yeah,
shame because I think he has the potential, he has the tools. Like it's one of those situations where Lavi and some of the previous coaches have been a little bit too loyal to some of the veteran guys
absolutely.
to a fault, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So I'll highlight some. I mean, Keandre Miller, he needs a contract. It's going to be tough. Now he says he wants to be here. Obviously, what
Hmm.
player's not going to say that? Obviously, him and his agent are probably going to hardball for a lot more money than he's probably worth. So if that's the case, he'll probably get a shorter term, maybe like a year or two. Because my God, it's so like he has the skill, he has the
Hmm.
capability. It's just the mental game is
Dude,
very
the ceiling
frustrating
is
with
so
him.
high with him,
It's
though.
so
I
high,
really,
and then
if
he'll
we
do the dumbest thing I've
like the
ever
most
seen.
bonehead,
And
yeah.
I'm like, "What are you doing?" So,
Yeah, but if we can retain him for, like you said, a short, like a 2 years, 6 mil or five and a
yes.
half or something,
And we
please, please, please. I mean, I honestly think
yeah,
it would
yeah,
be a
yeah.
mistake to let him walk, you
No,
know?
I do too. You know, we drafted him for a reason. I think he's got a lot more potential.
Mhm.
Laugh is laugh. I got a whole episode about that. I think it's good that he admitted to his downplay,
Yeah.
but this is like what, year 6 now? Like, okay, yeah. Oh, I didn't play what I was supposed to. Okay, yeah, I could be better. Do it. Right. I'm at the point now where do it. Either
Mhm.
do it or don't. Right. So
Yeah.
that's my point with him. Fox was good. I think he was very transparent. Again, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, I don't understand why this group plays good for a coach once and then the next year doesn't. Um, I think Trocheck's was fine. He was kind of checked out for most of the year too, which kind of pissed me off. But he, you know, he did what he was expected to do. Couldn't get JT Miller because he, you know, unfortunately said he had a close friend that passed away, so he couldn't be there for the breakup day. Chris Kreider is tough. You know, he basically explained what we all expected. I mean, he had this crazy laundry list of injuries. He had, you know, the
Yeah.
back injury that he's been dealing with for a while. He might need surgery on his hand coming out of the Four Nations. He like hurt his hand. Then he had a vertigo illness and
Yeah. He
brother,
could not
I'm
catch a
like,
break this year, man.
he could not catch a break. I still want him to stay. You know, his quotes were, I think, were pretty beautiful. He's like, "This is my home. This is the place that gave me the opportunity to be who, you know,
Yeah.
to live out my dream." I think he just had a bad year with injuries, but I understand the pressure of Chris Drury. and unfortunately, he probably will be gone. I hope not, though. We'll see. We
Yeah,
will
I'd
see.
say the same. I agree,
It
definitely.
it just sucks that Mika's staying and he's going, because that leads me into to Mika's. I hated Mika's exit interview. I've hated Mika this
Yeah.
whole year. He just came off like, look, as I'm not attacking him as a person. As a person, he seems like a great guy. I'm attacking him as a hockey player because, my lord, like, yes, he admits his play isn't as good. He's getting older. He's getting close to 1,000 games. That's expected. But his mentality that we've gone over this whole time of just quitting, not playing well enough, saying there wasn't good communication. Well, when you get your fucking paycheck in the mail for millions of dollars, I'm sure that communication goes well.
Yeah,
So
right?
when you have your insanely unmovable contract with a full no move clause till you're 42 years old, I think that was communicated well. So what we're not getting communicated from you is playing hockey. That's the problem. And you just
Mhm.
having this bleeding effect of despair and nonsense in the locker room that I really hope this offseason just gets, like, just air it out and get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Because, again, he's here to stay unless something crazy happens and he waves his no move clause, but he's not going to,
Yeah.
at least this offseason. So screw Mika. But again, like you were mentioning before we started recording, I agree. He's going to play for the team for a while. He's going to put up points, whatever. Who cares? Let's focus on the defense,
Mhm.
because we can't move him. So there's no point to complain about him as much. But for a season, horrible season for Mika comparatively. And his attitude is just horrible. And I hope it changes. And
Yeah.
I hope Chris Kreider stays. But damn, I just don't think it's going to
Yeah.
happen. We got 1 year left on Panarin. I didn't see much from Panarin for, I'm
I didn't
sure
see any of the exit
obvious.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
think for obvious
I think they
obvious
shielded him from some of
reasons.
that. I don't think they wanted anybody with a mic anywhere near him.
Yeah, and I won't get that sucks. That really sucks. That's a really bad situation. I feel
Yeah.
bad for the potential victims. And, if, again, we can't speak on if what's true or what's correct. I'm always going to
Mhm.
side with the victim because that's, most perpetrators, when they're making millions of dollars, tend to get away with things. So I'm going to side
Yeah.
with the victim, of course. But again, we weren't there. It's hard to place the judgment. If
Yeah,
any
and,
of
like,
it
the
is
timing
true,
and everything too, because she was also getting in trouble. It's like
right?
one of those things where when you
It's
get
one
in
of
the
those
weeds,
things.
you look at it and you're like, "Ah, I just don't feel good about this
I
situation
I
at
don't
all."
either.
Like,
Right.
yeah, it's just
But
sketchy.
like, if any of it is true, Panarin needs to rot somewhere and he needs to lose everything. But
Yeah.
again, he's got 1 year left here. I doubt we would re-sign him anyway, just because he's going to be 35, 36. He's making 11.6 million. We could sign him. Oh, that's right. He becomes a free agent the same time Connor McDavid
McDavid, that's
does.
McDavid to the rags. I don't know, man.
But
That'll
it's
be a whole
impossible
nother
because
conversation, but oof.
it's a whole another conversation. And I'll preface it's impossible because Connor McDavid walks in, he gets a blank check wherever he goes. And you
Well, I
can't,
mean, he's basically gonna get the max that you're able to pay him,
that
which
you're
is
able
gonna
to
be
pay him.
close to, I think it's north of 15 mil. It's because it's
Yeah,
obviously like the max you can give one player is a certain percentage of the cap, which is going up.
right. But
So
he's
when he
he's
goes
getting
to
whatever.
sign, like he's gonna be due like 16 million or something
So
crazy like that.
yeah, so if the Rangers do sign him, it'll be Igor, it'll be McDavid, and then just all AHL players making the minimum,
Yeah.
the league
Literally.
minimum. That's
Yeah.
gonna be our whole roster. Um,
Uh,
yeah, so I mean, my overall take was I wasn't really too excited to see these exit interviews because,
mhm.
to be frank, this team exited months ago, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't like this was their exit day. This was their, oh, let me clean my locker out day. They
that's a good
exited
point. Yeah.
months ago. So I love this organization. I love this. I don't love this team as much as I used to, right? I still love some key players. Like, well,
Mhm.
I'll end my final thing here with, hope. We have Igor, we have Adam Fox, we have Panarin for 1 more year. Um, Trocheck's good. Trocheck's good. He can, be down at times, but he's still good. We have JT Miller. Hopefully he keeps that up.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
you know,
Big one.
Keandre Miller has a big ceiling if he can pull his head out of his rear end. Um, and then we have question marks, right? Lav,
Yeah, a lot of question marks.
Mika, hopefully Kreider's here. I don't know. But even if he is here, could be a question mark too. That's my hope too. Like when he aired out, like, I have 17 injuries and I'm 33 years old. Maybe Drury just can't trade him. We'll just keep him
Yeah.
because who's going to want to take him? And then he'll break the power play goal record. He'll break the goal
I know,
record.
that'd be so sick.
That'd be
I
so
would
cool.
love to just see him just get like a swan song, just give him one more
So
opportunity
nice.
to do something here. Yeah.
And he scored a goal in the last game of the season, which was nice. He couldn't break the power play goal because he took a power play on the power play, like a penalty
Or he
on
took
the
that
power
penalty,
play.
yeah, the tripping.
I was like, this was your chance to break the record for power play goals for the Rangers, but whatever.
Yeah.
So hopefully this. But that's really all I have to say altogether.
Absolutely. No, and really, really good stuff there. I do one other thing about the exit stuff before I think we start rolling out of this one. I liked a lot of the comments from our younger guys. I do have to say, like Adam Edstrom had some really good stuff to say. He probably would have been back like probably round 2 if we did end up making the playoffs. He's a young guy who showed a lot of promise in the bottom 6. I think him, Carrick, and Rempe really started getting some good chemistry and getting some good stuff going before Edstrom ended up getting hurt. I like the comments from Rempe owning up to some of the mistakes he made. Saying he's looking forward to getting back into it. I think that he's got a little bit of a good future here ahead of him if he could just clean up a little bit of his game. Obviously, there's always a little bit of a spotlight on him, so it doesn't matter. He could play the cleanest game in the world, and he's still going to get a tripping, an invisible trip or a elbow call or whatever, just because the guy's 6'8", 6'9" on skates. Like, you know what I mean? And the Matthew Robertson obviously had some good stuff to say as well. So I did like some of the things that some of the younger guys and some of the developmental kind of guys had to say. But yeah, a lot of question marks, and obviously we have a long off season. We will certainly get into all of those things. Just to start rolling us out of this one, did want to mention, and we've talked about this here, John did win our first time score prediction this year by a score of 4-2. Obviously, we started doing it late in the year, letting next year we'll do a whole all
But
year
still,
kind of
like
thing.
50 games, and it was only 4-2.
4-2, yeah. So in like the 50 games that me and you predicted, first time score there, and it only hit 6 times. That's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's a fun little thing. We'll keep that one rolling.
Absolutely, that was fun.
We were going to do some awards and some player ratings and stuff this episode, but just so much to cover with Drury and Labby and everything like that. We'll get into that next week probably. Obviously, got a whole off season here. And just before we roll out of this one, obviously playoffs have already started. I did just want to get some of your predictions here, so I'll just real quick for you guys. I know you guys listening. We're kind of Rangers stuff here is pretty much done here. I just wanted to get some of the. But I mean, because there's been some really good playoff hockey going on. So as much as it's been doom and gloom in Rangerstown, there's been some really entertaining stuff going on. So I'll just run through these series here, give my real quick prediction. Obviously, we're a couple games in here, so the predictions might be a little skewed. Jets are winning 2-0 against the Blues. They're going back to St. Louis. Honestly, I'm really high on the Jets here. I think they're my bet to come out of the West. I really do. I think it's finally going to come together for them. I think the defense and the goaltending has been solid for a little while here. I really like what they're doing here. I think they're going to win that series handily. Stars and Abs. Stars won a game in OT last night. Really, really entertaining game. I caught a lot of that game here. Winning that series 2-1. I do think the Stars are going to pull out of this one. I think they have some really incredible depth. They've been playing some really good defense. Interesting one here. Knights are tied in the Wild, 1-1. I do think the Wild are going to make it interesting. I just don't know that they have enough firepower to overcome the Knights there. I think the Knights are in stride here. I think they're going to win that one. And Kings took a commanding 2-0 lead against the Oilers last night after a pretty big W. I do think they're going to end up taking that one. So those 4 series in the West, Jets, Blues, Stars, Avs, Knights, Wild, and Kings, Oilers. Just curious on your predictions, and then I'll finish up with the East.
Yeah, I definitely say Jets. Jets are going well. I really want the Avalanche to go far again. I think Gabriel Landeskog is coming back, which is a really cool story.
Yeah, it was awesome to see last night.
So I'm gonna go with them also because screw Dallas. As a New York fan, I like the Minnesota Wild, and so does my girlfriend. So I want them, and I can't stand. I hate the Golden Knights.
I mean, I hate the Knights. I just don't. I don't think the Wild have enough to get past.
Probably not. But I really hope so. And then I would love the Oilers to go far, but every year it's the same story. Stuart Skinner just can't play between the pipes, and then Darnell Nurse disappears. So unfortunately, I hate the Kings, but probably gonna be the Kings.
I mean, they also, dude, they kind of finally put it all together too. They've been teetering. I mean, last year they had a really good opportunity, ended up kind of choking at the end there, but seems like they kind of have it all together here too. And then getting into the East, this one I hate so much. The Leafs are beating the Sens 2-0. I really wanted the Senators to make this one interesting. I just don't think they have it. I mean, even if they win a couple games, make it close. The Leafs are winning this one in 6, probably 6 if I had to guess. Dude, the Panthers look like they're about to roll over the Lightning. The Lightning had nothing to say in game 1. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think the Panthers are going to own the whole entire series, but I think they're going to end up coming out with that one. Caps beating the Canadiens 2-0. This series is a lot closer than that scoreline suggests. Obviously, the first game in OT, the second game being a 1-goal game, and barring the empty netter with 0.7 seconds left. I'm pulling for the Habs in that one. I really want them to come back. I really, really want them to come back. I gotta say, if I'm looking at any of these teams that are going to come back, I do think it's going to be the Canadians. Uphill battle, but I really hope they do it. And then the Canes are rolling over the Devils. I don't see that changing. These Devils look dejected. They don't look like they have any fight in them. I think the Canes are going to win that one handily.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. I like the Maple Leafs, so that's cool with me.
Mm-hmm.
Them winning. I think they'll win. I hate Tampa Bay Lightning. Not a big fan of the Panthers for obvious reasons, but
Yeah,
especially with Matthew Chuck back and then scoring 2 goals, crazy. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Florida.
Mm.
I would prefer the Habs to win, but I don't know. I think they barely squeaked into the wild card spot as it was, and I just think Washington's gonna take this. And then for Carolina and the Devils have a lot of injuries and
Yeah.
are just kind of outpaced by the speed and skill and the playoff experience that the Canes have and Rob Brind'Amour. So I got to go with the Canes.
Well, with all that being said, right now, who do you think's coming out of the West? Who do you think's coming out of the East? And who do you think's winning the Cup? Putting you on the spot here.
All right, coming out of the West, like to go
To
to
the
the
finals.
Stanley
Like,
Cup.
yeah, what do you think the Stanley Cup final is going to be, and who do you think's winning?
Oh man, that's tough. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Stars. Much as I
Okay.
don't want that to the case,
Okay.
and man, Stars. It might be. I think it's Stars Panthers. Honestly, I want it to be Star. I think it'd be Stars Canes, but I don't know. I think
See,
it's gonna be Stars
okay,
Panthers.
fair enough.
Yeah.
So I'm not super far off here. I mean, I think again, I'm really high on the Jets. I think the Jets are finally going to come out of the West here. Although that's going to be that second round matchup. It's either going to be Jets Stars or Jets Avs most likely.
Oh
That's
yeah.
going to be fun to watch. I do think it's going to be the Jets out of the West, and I got the Canes, man. I think this is finally their
Okay.
time to
Okay.
shine. I'd like to see that over the other options here: Panthers, Capitals, things like that, Maple Leafs. Like, yeah, I think Jets Canes sounds really interesting too. Be a lot of fun to watch. So. Well, we'll see. I'm gonna write that one down here when we get off, and we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see
Oh yeah.
who's
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. We'll track it. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think we could roll out of this one unless you had any closing comments.
No. Yeah. I'm all set.
All right. Well, then I will start rolling this out. Thank you guys again for listening here. Thank you for all the love and support. And thank you to the Rangers. As much as we have had a terrible year here and not what we're used to seeing, still love to watch the team, love to follow the team, and nonetheless happy the season's over. But it was a ride, it was a journey. I'm never going to be not happy about having a season full of hockey to watch. I mean, we have to now wait 6 months to watch Rangers hockey again. Obviously not happy about that. But nonetheless, we'll be here weekend and we are out covering all the offseason stuff for you guys. Hopefully you enjoy the ride with us as well. Thank you all again. And yeah, stay tuned for some awards, off-season talk, free agencies, trades, all that kind of stuff. We got you. Stay tuned. And yeah, so I will bow out of this one, give it over to John, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Yep. Matt said it well. With all the negativity and the upset, at least we had Rangers hockey. Is always a blessing to have that, and blessing to have all of you fans watch it with us and talk with it about us and on our socials and everything like that. A lot of off-season stuff to talk about. Let's hope for the best. There's still some bright spots with this team. There's a lot of crap we got to throw in the garbage, and hopefully that does happen. So thank you again for joining us this whole season for the ups and the majority of the downs. And we hope you stay tuned. And if you leave and come back, we appreciate that too. So thank you again. Tell your friends and loved ones about the show. We love you guys and girls. And we will catch you on the next one.